This is The Guardian.
Hello and welcome to The Guardian Football Weekly. Another weekend completely free of incident as far as Arsenal Football Club are concerned. A routine 1-0 win away at Wolves with absolutely zero controversy and talking points. Before that, we start at the Etihad where Pep gets it launched to the big man and Robert Sanchez tries to hit his step count with a poorly timed stroll to the edge of his area. Then onto the Vitality, John Brewin was there in the flesh to witness the world's greatest team hit Forest for 5. Elsewhere, the voice note of Damocles hangs over Ange Postecoglou as Dr. Tottenham moves on from routine procedures to performing medical miracles by reviving the corpse of Leicester City. Plus some good fortune from Manchester United in West London, David Moyes' 700th game in charge, penalty shenanigans from Brentford, your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. Hello everyone, Robyn Cowen here, filling in for Max, who has been handed a 6-match ban following his Ange article soaring towards the top of the ice-cold take charts. Still going. On the panel today, good morning Barry Glendenning.
Hi Robyn, you're on top form already.
Little sleep, it seems. It helps, in a way. Just tipped over the edge. John Brewin, good morning.
Hi Robyn, good intro.
I can't take too much credit for that. I need to say, Joel, the huge assists, producer Joel. We've got to credit him. We've got to.
He is the master.
He is indeed very good. And Will Unwin, good morning.
Good morning, Robyn, and well done to Joel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Needs his flowers. How was nursery drop off, Will?
She's far too heavy to be taken on my shoulders, and I resent my daughter a lot at the moment.
Those backpacks are an absolute killer, aren't they? Let's move on from that and start with the Premier League. Manchester City 3, Chelsea 1. Will, you were there at the Etihad. Yeah, because of the context of what happened in midweek, this was very much a result that was needed. What happened in terms of the first 3 minutes and that mistake from one of the new signings? Did you see the final result coming?
I was mainly focused on hoping that Kusanov didn't cry in the first 3 minutes. The next 87 minutes were pretty irrelevant at that stage.
Did you just want to go and give him a hug?
Yeah, I mean, something like that. I mean, I've got blocked ear ducts, so I can't cry, but that's a different story.
Prince Andrew over here.
Yeah, I know, I can sweat, don't you worry about that. But it was... obviously turn up in midweek, he'd had a few training sessions, very much sort of mid-90s signing of don't know much about him, having come from the Belarusian league and then Lawns, and to in the first 3 minutes miss a pretty simple defensive header and then not really knowing what to do afterwards and sort of flinging his head at it in a pitiful way, knowing that his goalkeeper was never going to get it, and then watching the ball go in after Jackson knocked it to Madueke. He looked crestfallen. I think I described it in my piece as, a child trying to come up with a reason why he's broken the family heirlooms, wondering as his lip quivered, waiting for his parents to come and shout at him. And he didn't get much better than that, actually. For the next few minutes, he got booked for taking down Cole Palmer. He gave away the ball quite a bit. It was really, really sad to see. I remember Mangala's debut for City also against Chelsea 11 years ago, and he was absolutely incredible. A superb debut, one of the best you'll ever see. Turned out he was absolutely rubbish, which was unfortunate. So I'm hoping that Kusanov is the anti-Mangala here, and that he starts off as bad as it gets and he builds from it and it gets a lot better. And I think it put City off their step early on. Bernardo Silva had to sort of drop back between the centre backs to get on the ball because every time it went to Kusanov, it ended up with a Chelsea shirt. But City rallied. Chelsea missed another couple of good opportunities to make it 2-3, which helped City a lot. And they managed to really get on the ball. Maybe saying they controlled it would be generous, but they were the best I've seen for a while. Gundogan had his best game since he's been back from Barcelona since moving this summer. Gvardiol was superb at left back. Haaland physically dominated the centre backs, and I'm not, he's done well, but I've not seen him do it to that level this season. You see from his goal, holding off Chalobah easily, and he had similar with Colville. It was a really good performance from him, and Phil Foden was fantastic too. And I think it was just the performance that City needed that they've not had. Fight, a lot more energy, and even in the final 10 minutes didn't actually look like conceding, which we've seen them collapse in so many games this season in Paris and Feyenoord, and too many to count, to be honest. But yeah, hopefully Kusanov recovers, and if he wants a hug, I'm available.
A match of the day too last night. They ended with great Premier League nightmare debuts, and Kusanov can take heart from the fact that several of the players who featured in that went on to have very, very illustrious Premier League careers. So I think he was just first day nerves.
There was such sadness in his eyes, Barry. It was awful, wasn't it? It was
like that dog, Kay Burley.
Exactly.
Highlighted.
You should put them together. Have you ever seen those two in the same room? I feel like it could have been a bit different, though, couldn't it, Barry? I mean, we mentioned in the intro, Robert Sanchez had a hand in maybe one or two of the City goals.
Yeah, but he's been a liability all season, and he's probably not been helped by the fact that he's been sarcastically jeered or applauded by his own fans, that his manager has said he expects an awful lot more from him. So he's playing under, even if you're playing well, you're under pressure. But when you're playing badly and you're being very publicly criticised by fans and manager, it's not going to make your job any easier. We've been highlighting his mistakes since the start of the season, I think. So that was no big surprise. I thought City won fairly comfortably. And City players who have not been playing well played well, and that makes a huge difference. Gundogan, Foden, Núñez played well. That was probably his best game in a City shirt, although it's a low bar. Ederson some of his performances have been a bit iffy recently. He played well. His distribution was excellent. And Pep, he's been trying to figure out how to solve this problem for weeks now, and he's hit upon the plan of getting it launched. Route 1. Who knew the idea would be that simple? And I think Chelsea made it a bit easy for City by leaving them vast meadows of grass to run into behind their defence. City really exploited that, Foden in particular with the third goal. And Marmoush had a good debut, I thought. And him and Haaland look like they have the makings of a decent partnership.
John, were you sagely nodding your head at the nature of the get it launched goals? You must have really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not the first time Pep's done that. I mean, you go back to his time at Bayern Munich, where they played against a Jurgen Klopp managed Dortmund and decided to beat the press by just smashing it over the top. Pep is someone that can vary his tactics. That's one of the things about him. And he's changed his tactics quite a lot since he's been in English football. Now, the tactic he has at the moment, by just chucking in new signings, it's a bit sort of Harry Redknapp.
Where's Cranshaw?
Yeah, exactly. Kevin Bond's, it could be in Kevin Bond's window, the amount of deals they're doing at the moment. The conspiracy theory suggests that, is it that City fear a transfer ban for any possible legal difficulties that may come their way? But, I mean, Will here is abreast of these things more than I am. I've got to say this, Will. A lot of these players, Marmoush back aside, I don't really know who these people are. And Kusanov did look like someone just drafted in from the very fringes of European football to play in this game. And it didn't really happen for him. There's other players coming in, I believe. Is it Cambiasso is one? There's a Norwegian kid that everybody wants. City with a club of careful planning, of building a team slowly, of this old adage where, and Liverpool did this in the 80s, United, whatever, where you just add a couple of players every summer and then you just rebuild the team. Suddenly it's into the panics. The thing is, not every player is going to be good from the start. And if we're going back for terrible debuts, Will again will remember this one. Patrice Evra was given his Manchester United debut in a Manchester derby. And Ferguson said to him, right, you're marking Sean Wright-Phillips. And this is Sean Wright-Phillips at his sort of very best. And we play, man-to-man marking here. And I've had a nightmare and went on to be one of the best fullbacks we've ever seen in the Premier League. And so it can happen. Let's wish the young man the best. But I think his manager rather overexposed him. But City are desperate at the moment, aren't they? They're desperate for something to change. And maybe it did change in that game. But I do think Chelsea are one of those teams that can be relied upon to flop when it's their moment. They're a bit flaky, and they're getting flakier.
Obviously, no one really wants to do business in January. City never want to do business in January, but I mean, they have been absolutely awful for a lot of the season by their standards. So I can see why they've done it, and then obviously the pool of players that you can sign is pretty limited. So they've gone young, Vitor Reis, who's turned up from Palmeiras at 18. He was on the bench as well, never centre back, who can play right back. So they go young because they think there's more value in it long term because they're probably paying over the odds to get them in January. Wouldn't have played Kusanov, but there was no other centre-backs really available. I know Stones came on, but he's clearly not fit and was held off for as long as possible. I was expecting John Stones to wander down the touchline after 3 minutes and 1 second on Saturday to start warming up. But that wasn't done. And Marmoush, paid over the odds for him. I mean, I think he was available for about half the price in the summer. Really looked really good. And that's it. I think they've had to do it out of the sake of it because things couldn't get any worse. Marmoush was key to victory at the weekend. He was really good, looked lively. If he could learn how to stay on side, that'd be great. But yeah, I think it's just the case of needs must, and that that's the 3 players that were available that they could sign without being too silly about it. I don't think they're worried about transfer embargoes at the moment. I think they're pretty positive on the case against them. Haaland signed his 9.5-year deal. I think they're feeling pretty positive. Patrice Evra was absolutely bloody awful that day. That was a good day.
That was in the montage actually on match day. Things couldn't get any worse, but they're now back up to 4th, Manchester City. So yeah, very odd season it's been. Bournemouth 5, Nottingham Forest 0. John, you were at this game.
Yes.
I don't think you weren't expecting this result, and on Nuno's birthday as well.
He's quite a likeable chap, isn't he, Nuno? He has real charisma, I think, in a very quiet way, that sort of Zen, almost Buddha style that he holds himself. And his team were bloody awful against Bournemouth, it's fair to say. Though that actually, most of the credit for that goes to Bournemouth, aside perhaps for that opening goal, where you see Justin Kluivert pick up the ball in his own half. Now, clearly, Nuno has told the team, the speed of Bournemouth's attacking means it's best if we get back in numbers. So you have Ola Aina, is that how we pronounce his name?
Mm-hmm.
Is running back, and he's rubbernecking, watching Kluivert run, and they're all running back. And Kluivert's thinking, is anybody going to attack? And at a certain point, you actually see Kluivert sort of say, nobody, and just shoot. And of course, the ball goes through a forest of legs and beyond a hapless goalkeeper. And, you have the first goal. And Forest did what they often do in a game, is that they put a bit of muscle into it, got back into the game. Elanga versus Lewis Cook was a key battle that Lewis Cook, one of those players playing out of position, because they only have 12 fit players, actually won, even though he got an early yellow card. And then in the second half, Bournemouth just put them to the sword. And the thing is, the third goal that they scored that was ruled out by VAR, that followed a sequence of attacking of this sort of wave of Bournemouth attacking, where Forest just could not get the ball out. And then it slotted home by Kluivert. And, the gods of VAR denied what could have been one of those goals of the season. It was just brilliant to watch, because you could just feel it building up, and then they score. And you think, oh, well, Forest have been lucky there. But then Bournemouth just score anyway, because they can. And Uetara, who, as Iraola said afterwards, has played left back, he's played left wing, he's played right wing, now he's playing centre forward. And the thing is with Bournemouth, they're doing this thing where they have 12 players, and they're showing how teams used to do it, which was they had 12 players, and then one of them gets injured, another one moves around, you've got one sub that can come on and run around, and he has to play various different positions. They were absolutely fantastic. But it's no surprise to see them do that to a good team, because they've beaten Manchester City, and they beat them deservedly, they beat Liverpool, they beat Arsenal, they play Liverpool next week. That's just a delight to watch at the moment, and Iraola's star rises and rises, and he's such a him and Nuno share a few qualities, don't they? Quite shy, quite friendly. Don't really pull any punches. I mean, Nuno after the game would just say, why did you lose the game? Oh, they were much better than us. There was no, I thought we were a bit unlucky. What about this decision, the 10th minute or whatever? It was just, we got done there and everything went wrong for us. We didn't do what we were supposed to. But Iraola has that quiet charm. He is an ideologue. He follows in the Bielsa, the line of thinking. But I also think there's a humanity to him as well. He's not completely, he's not a mad professor. He sees it for what it is. He sees there is a levity there. There is a life beyond. But, I don't think he's sat up all night reading Jonathan Wilson books. He's just...
He'll have been up all night if he read Wilson's column yesterday.
Yeah, we'll get to that surely. But, it's...
Rocking in a corner. What the hell was that?
What's he done now? But no, I think... Okay, not to go on too long, but the thing is, I know a few Bournemouth fans over the years, and the Eddie Howe years were seen as that, that club's apex, weren't they? They'd gone all that way. But the thing is, the fans got a bit annoyed by the fact that they were fighting relegation, and the best they could hope for was mid-table. And some of them would say, it was better in the Championship when we were beating everybody. They cannot have expected their club to be, the most talked about club in the Anglophone world because of the football that they're playing. And that choice of, Gary O'Neill did a fine job for them. The decision to go for Iraola and remove Gary O'Neill was a masterstroke, whoever made it. And you've got that group of players that Manchester City want to buy everybody, and they must look at Bournemouth and say, can we just have them, please? Because that they would do the job, wouldn't they, for Pep Guardiola?
This is the problem, isn't it? They're probably going to be picked apart, depending on where they finish, I suppose. Will, you've covered Forest quite closely. It's going to be interesting to see if this is a sort of, I wouldn't say spiral, but if they kind of revert to maybe the mean and where people expected them to be, or whether this was just a really, really bad day at the office where, as John said, they kind of forego defending.
Yeah, I'm at the Brighton game next week, so it'll be fascinating to see how they recover from this, a proper trouncing and a terrible performance, and defensively they've been so good, which makes it even more surprising, especially against a team that have got no centre forward, although it seems to have improved them. So yeah, the bigger question is, when things go badly at Forest in the past, they panic, and with a week left of the transfer window, I sort of wonder what they might do. What WhatsApps were going around from Mr. Marinakis suggesting they sign Rashford and the ghost of Pele or something. So that's the question. They've got so much right this season. They've been very steady. I'm sure they've wanted to add a striker this window, which obviously wouldn't have helped them much on Saturday, I appreciate. But I think they just need to recover, get back, play Brighton. Good chance of beating Brighton, who obviously lost to Everton this week, and not worry too much about it. Get out of your system. These things happen. Look, then they shouldn't be in the top four, let's be honest. They should be battling for 7th, 8th, 9th. So they're doing incredibly well. So don't panic. Stay calm. Get a teacup with some message on of a similar note. And yeah, don't worry about it. Football is what it is. Bad results come along. They're never going to, define your season. One defeat against a really good Bournemouth team. And yeah, don't do anything stupid is my advice.
I think cutaway of the weekend was the box of Bournemouth.
Yeah, amazing.
Bournemouth's injured players, wasn't it? It looked at Fraser says that box, all of the injured Bournemouth players fit inside, looked like tremendous fun, didn't it, Barry? And but producer Joel pointing out it was like a David Blaine exhibit, which is a very good observation.
Yeah, I certainly can't top that. And Ange Postecoglou must be looking at Bournemouth going, lads, you're not doing me any favours here. But
yeah, absolutely.
I wonder, do they just keep all their injured players in a big aquarium until they're ready to come out again? But yeah,
not the revenue stream, isn't it? You could pay to observe.
It was a brilliant performance.
I think there is an aquarium in Bournemouth, isn't there? But
we've been singing the praises of Milenkovic and Murillo all season. I think it's time to go, lads, that was a shocker. They really had a shocker.
They were awful. They really were. I mean, they are big lads as well, and they just were made to look like, sort of lumbering by. And actually, but I'd say Blaine made him look lumbering. He's the centre half for is it Huyson? Wow. I mean, like, again, there is a player. I mean, Ben Fisher did a very good interview with him last week, and I wrote a lot that I didn't know about him. But this guy was at Juventus. He was at Roma, and they let him go. And you're thinking, what are you doing? I mean, he like, if Liverpool want a replacement for Virgil van Dijk, there's your guy. There's your guy that is bringing the ball out of defence, that strolling player, that Alan Hansen player that Liverpool always have. There's your guy. And I'm sorry, Bournemouth fans, I don't want to sell you star play, but that's how these things work. But what a player! And you just think, and actually, Liverpool did poach Bournemouth's director of football, Richard Hughes, of course. So they're obviously thinking along those lines. But yeah, I mean, it Bournemouth showed that it can be done. They have had money. It's not done on a shoestring. You can't do things on a shoestring, but it's been done well, and it shows that other teams, who we'll get to, I'm sure, that you can build a team.
Well, in part one there, in part two, it's what we've all been waiting for. It's more Ange chat. Welcome to part two of the Guardian Football Weekly. Spurs 1, Leicester 2. Isaac says, currently trying to pass a kidney stone while watching Tottenham Leicester. It's a full body pain experience. All the best, thanks for a great podcast, Isaac, and thank you for that. Ian, are there going to be 2 St Totterings days this season? One for Arsenal in February and one for West Ham in April. Barry, one of your brilliant predictions as ever. You could see Leicester winning this one.
Come on, I think everyone could see Leicester winning this
one. Oh, I'm not sure.
I'll try and get through this without using the medical reference or the adjective, but that are commonly associated with Tottenham Hotspur. I didn't think they were terrible in this game. I've seen them play a lot worse. I'll start by saying that. I don't think it was a huge surprise. We have to factor in all the injuries, but then add the Bournemouth caveat. They're missing Maddison, Spence, Vicario, Romero, Solanke, Dogi, Johnson, Werner, Van de Ven, Papisar, Bissouma, Audibert. That's a lot of players out injured. Although there seems to be some suggestion that James Maddison wasn't injured, but just sore. So I don't know what the difference is particularly. Could he have come on for 20 minutes or so? I don't know. But it's another bad result for Ange. Tottenham have now taken 1 point from 21. They've lost 13 games this season. The fans are unhappy. They seem to be more unhappy with Daniel Levy than they are with Ange Postecoglou, which seems fair enough because he isn't supporting Ange Postecoglou, and he hasn't really supported quite a number of the 16 managers that he's seen off, or not, 15 and Ange, who might be seen off fairly soon. But yeah, a really, really good result for Leicester, who come from behind. Jamie Vardy trolling the Spurs fans was quite fun.
38 years old, never changed, Jamie.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, just from reference, we spoke about it being Nuno's birthday on Saturday. I was shocked to learn he's younger than me because he seems much more of a grown-up than I am. So maybe I'm more in the Vardy school of immaturity, and it's to be applauded, I think.
I agree.
I'm really struggling on the Ange question. I would quite like to see him left there, but if he is left there, he will have got a lot more rope than many of his predecessors. I think a lot of people want to see him succeed, but the fact of the matter is he isn't succeeding. He's failing dismally as things stand. But if he's let go now, he can say, look at all the players I'd injured. It's kind of a justifiable excuse or a valid excuse. So I would like to see him left there until he gets some of his good players back.
You're also worried about if he isn't Max's mental state.
Well, I'm not worried about Max's mental. I just want Max to be here when it happens.
Don't worry, we'll make sure we get comment from Max Rushton if the voice note does have to happen. Yeah, 15th in the table, 1 point ahead of Everton, having played a game more. He was, of course, asked about his future, and he said, "Who knows?" I think he did say, "Who knows, mate." When you're the manager of a football club, you can be very vulnerable, isolated. I don't feel that. I feel like this group of players are giving everything for the club. I have a group of staff that is really committed. I focus on that. My role within that is support and try with these players. Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Do we think that if they had perhaps lost maybe more handsomely to Liverpool in that first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final, maybe the trigger might be pulled more readily, and then the Ryan Mason glass would be would be pulled again, maybe if they reach the final?
Yeah, I think he'll survive till the second leg. I think that's pretty safe at this point. It'd be a tricky one to do at this stage. He's got a good chance of making a final. I suspect he'll probably get beat about 4-0 in that second leg, and that might tip everyone over the edge. The thing is, he's got a lot of excuses about injuries and whatnot, but so the squad has changed, basically. What is available to him has changed, but he's decided to stick to his guns with his own style. Yeah, that's his philosophy, etc. And it's not working, and he's not adjusting to the fact that he's not got his first 11 available. That midfield was, poor yesterday, very poor. Sarr wasn't fit, etc. and so forth. And it's, philosophy managers at the moment, real sort of bugbear of mine that, John mentioned before that Guardiola keeps changing, he evolves. These people have to evolve. Russell Martin got sacked because he couldn't change. He's not going to walk into a job in the Championship having a squad available to play the football he wants. You have to adapt as a manager. It's, I've come up with a Guardian metaphor for this. It's like people who are sort of bastions of natural wine and think it's good. It's not. It's awful. You can make better wine. You don't have to have this. You can adapt and make good stuff. Stop telling us that this is the only way of doing it. It's nonsense.
Natural wine?
Yeah, it's horrible.
New one on me.
Yeah. For me and Barry don't get to do these tipples.
It tastes like orange squash that's been fermented next to a radiator, then used as an ashtray. But you'll get really sort of fancy sommeliers going, "Oh, this has got a lovely bouquet, etc." Or you can really taste the tobacco. I don't want to taste the tobacco, mate. I want to taste wine.
Well, you've really come up in the world since I first met you. You've been like knocking around with sommeliers.
Yeah, this is what you get. This is what you get when you're from Gorton. I'm basically the other brother from Shameless.
Yeah, this is social climber. Yeah.
Before we move on, Wilson's column. Go, everyone.
Well, I wish I could. No, I wish I could explain it, but Jonathan took an offbeat look, let's put it that way, and delved into the theories of Timothy Leary, a man best known, of course, for his championing of LSD. Though this wasn't a lysergic theory that Jonathan was following, but it appeared to some sort of psychological profiling of Ange Postecoglou, involving T-Rexes, monkeys,
mice.
I think the point is that was probably not that dissimilar from Will's, which was that Ange probably needs to adapt, mate, because it's not really going to happen for him. And, the thing is about Ange, his football philosophy is one that he, when he was the other side of the world, clearly watched a lot of Pep Guardiola football, decided that was for him. But football has moved on now, as we've seen. Pep Guardiola's had to adapt. Pep Guardiola is struggling with modern football. The other day, he was talking about how quick players are the way forward, and how talking about the teams that he thought were good, and they were Liverpool, they were Bournemouth, and the rest of it, and Newcastle, the strong teams. And it appears to me that Ange is struggling to adapt. But I'm not sure that's what Jonathan was saying, because all I know is that I spent a lot of the weekend with being sent excerpts from Jonathan's column, which was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
I would just like to stress the point. I am a huge Wilson fan. He's a great man. I love him to bits. But that was just peak Wilson.
Me too. He's a good friend, yes.
And my heart goes out to whoever it is curating Sood's Corner in Private Eye for the next issue, because
that one isn't going to fit. It's not going to fit in. They're going to have to do a double page, or I actually can safely predict it starts with that, continues, and then that he must have smashed the all-time entries for one entry for Sood's Corner. It was absolutely unbelievable. Well done, Jonathan.
We salute you, Jonathan Wilson. Wolves 0, Arsenal 1. Calafiori with a lovely finish, and I think that's really the headline here, isn't it?
Oh, but now, are you gaslighting Arsenal fans here? This is it. Oh, yeah, you see already.
Notifications turned off.
The conspiracy theories begin. You're gaslighting by laughing at them, but they've had this great injustice done against them, and you're trying to skip it. You're trying to skip away from it.
What are you doing to me, John Brewin?
You're allowing the PGMOL, this body that are acting unilaterally. Sorry, Robyn, I was cutting across your book, but there's a weird thing about Arsenal fans, and a lot of other people think the PGOML, MOL, is that? Yeah, they are. You watch these American procedurals, and like one government department's gone rogue, like the Justice Department or a grand jury or some sort of attorney. Or in a more sort of more parochial English thing where you've got a local council, a parish council, and one of the committees is going a bit rogue, and the other ones can't control them. That appears to be the way that the referees' body, as led by Howard Webb, are depicted by those.
They feel they get justice, but they're mavericks.
Yeah, they're taking the law into their own hands. Yeah. They're in too deep, Pachansky. It's just refereeing. It's just decisions.
Well, let's have a debate, because I mean, who do we think that? Because I didn't see it, and then you get all the kind of going, this is the worst decision ever seen in the history of and I just wonder, Barry, am I being contrary when I kind of when someone tells you this is the best film or the best TV program they've ever seen, and you watch it and you think it's okay, but I don't get the hype. Can you see why the red card was given, or is it the most outrageous decision you've ever seen?
I think three things can be true. I think you can think it was a terrible decision, and I do think it was a terrible decision. I've seen worse, but that was a terrible decision. I can totally understand the anger of Arsenal fans, and I also have no sympathy for them whatsoever, because quite a few of them, an increasing number, are behaving like big babies. I think it was a bad decision. And then the PGMOL doubling down on it yesterday was worse, because they're behaving in a Trumpian, almost Orwellian manner. The PGMOL told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And that seems to be what's happened. They've told us to ignore what we all saw and telling us that we saw something else. It's like the Elon Musk fallout after he did that double fascist salute. With regard to Arsenal fans being outraged about it, this has led apparently to Michael Oliver getting threats, which is not acceptable. And then Arsenal fans have been posting these numbers. Oh, he's given us more red cards than anyone else. Well, that's fine, but they're just numbers. Unless I see every single red card he's given, you judge each one on its merits. So maybe quite a few of them were deserved. Maybe he's given other teams red cards they didn't deserve. I haven't seen all those red cards, or I can't remember them, so I'm not in a position to comment. And then, there were other egregious decisions over the weekend, quite a few of them. Is that evidence of a conspiracy? Ilman Njai was booked for impersonating a bird. That's ridiculous.
Outrageous. That should have been a red.
Alvarez for West Ham avoided a third. He should have got 3 yellow cards. He only got 1. And Ciso should have been red carded for a challenge on Endo Watoro. He only got a yellow. And you could argue that Martinez
Fulham,
should have been sent off against Fulham. So, are these all different conspiracies, or is it just Arsenal who are the victims of a conspiracy? So there's an awful lot to unpick here, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter because they won. It was a very good defensive performance for them. So, fair play, I suppose. But yeah, it was a terrible decision in my opinion, but I have no sympathy for them.
Yeah, Wolves also had a player sent off, João Gomez. I do like the way Vitor Pereira, the Wolves manager, really keeps his cards close to his chest, doesn't he? After that.
João Gomez got his first yellow card for kicking the ball away. I was under the impression that only happens to Arsenal players. Did any of them complain about that? No.
Listen, it's not every Arsenal fan. Let's not
correct.
The lunatic fringe with.
But quite a few of them are Arsenal fans with a big influence.
Yeah, that's true. And Declan Rice won against Brighton back in what feels like several years ago. Is still regarded as like this changing moment in football. Listen, my view of the Lewis Skelly thing is: listen, we all know the tactical foul. Yeah, it's certain teams have built empires around it, but it was a pretty poor attempt at it, and it was just a trip. And I think in rugby union, if you did that, you'd be sent off. Which is obviously a different sport. I'm not saying we have the same rules as that. Their view is that it was high, it was deeply cynical, no attempt to play the ball. You could see why it was given as a red. I don't think it was one of the worst decisions of all time. And they won. You won the game. Lewis Skelly might learn a lesson, which is if you're going to be cynical, mate, whoever's telling you to do this, try to tell him if you're going to be cynical, get your body across him, just nudge into him or whatever. Don't just trip him up like that. Like it was like a schoolboy's, like say you're running across the schoolyard and your mate just trips you over. It was like that type of thing. It wasn't a football move. That's probably why he got sent off for it.
Yeah, not playing the ball. So Arsenal do win, but it seems to be just a real slog for them.
Yeah.
Unlike Liverpool, who beat Ipswich 4-1. I mean, Will, it just seems quite effortless at the moment for Liverpool, doesn't it?
They've got the most balanced squad in the league by a distance. They've got 6 forwards that they can rotate as they like, and they all seem in form, maybe apart from Nunes. And Chiesa's sort of getting up to speed, but yeah, lots of options. And at the heart of it, they've got Van Dijk and Konate looking like the best defensive partnership now that Milenkovic and Murillo need to retire. With Gravenberch, synced in with them superbly. It's a complete team. Everyone high as a kite, happy as Larry with the form. Playing teams off the park. I know Ipswich aren't the most difficult at the moment, so you showed what you can do to them. But yeah, it's a very cohesive unit. Everything's working. Morale's really high, and they're not fearful of anyone. Even when it was difficult at Forest when I was there, kept going, kept battering down the door, and eventually got a goal. So yeah, they're going to win the league. I think we can all accept that. We can probably gloss over them most weeks from now on, and just talk about it when they've lifted the trophy, because it's going to take a bit of a slump from now to give it up, I'd say.
Yeah, we're in January and they still haven't played anyone any good, have they? Yeah.
Bournemouth next week.
Ooh.
And the question I had was, did Arne Slot's dad think they played well against Ipswich? Because, of course, he is now the major critic, saying they were boring against Lille. But it does show you how easy it's been for Liverpool.
I love that however old you are, your parents are still going to slap you down. It's great, isn't it? Absolutely love that. Fulham 0, Manchester United 1. Lautaro Martinez with a deflected strike. Talking of deflecting tactics, I loved Ruben Amorim's comment about Marcus Rashford. Do we think that their 68-year-old goalkeeping coach is a better trainer than Marcus Rashford? I think this is the big question, isn't it? I mean, again, do we think this, because Rashford makes good copy, doesn't he? And is this a kind of big deflection as to another pretty unconvincing Manchester United display, Barry?
I don't know enough about Amorim's previous musings in his old job or previous jobs to know how he operates, but he strikes me as someone who just speaks his mind, has decided Marcus Rashford is not for him and wants to get rid of him. I can't see Rashford coming back from this. Stranger things have happened, I suppose, but I don't think Rashford wants to be at the club. I don't think Amarim wants him at the club. I'm clearly, obviously, not in a position to judge Rashford's training performances. Is he turning up late? Is he not putting in the effort? I don't know, but I don't really know the answer to your question. It might be a deflection tactic because, I mean, this was a dog of a game. It was played at a horrible time, so slow hand clap, whoever was responsible for that. It was played in horrible weather, and I think Manchester United just about got away with it, but it's a very, very valuable win for them. Fulham's record at home against United is absolutely atrocious.
But again, you feel like Fulham could possibly have won every single game this season. They seem to be very unfortunate, and you get that hangdog expression from Marco Silva so often. It just looks so sad. Gianni Infantino was at this game. He was also at Manchester City versus Chelsea, having been at the inauguration of Donald Trump, the holy triumvirate of events, you might say. That'll do for part 2. In part 3, we'll round up the rest of the Premier League action. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Brighton 0, Everton 1, an Everton penalty from Iliman and Dye. Interestingly, there was a bit of debate about this one as well, Will, whether this was a penalty or not in the Match of the Day studio on Saturday. I mean, it looked like he kind of punched the ball out of play to me, so fairly clear cut.
I'm in Camp Lineker on this. I don't think it was a penalty. I think no one in their right mind is punching the ball like that, facing their own goal, when really probably wasn't as much danger as you might think. So I can't see that his thought process was that he should punch the ball away to stop Everton from having a shot, because Everton don't score anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much what's happening in the area. And so I think he got pressure in behind and his arm moved and he was sort of pretty helpless. But yeah, Shearer and Murphy were sort of disgusted to think that it might have been an accident. It was like, it's nailed on, it's a stone waller. So, and I am a professional footballer now. I've trained with Harrogate once, so I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I did think it was a penalty.
But weren't you in goal? You were actively encouraged.
So I know who can and can't use their hands.
Punch the ball away or palm it away.
Yeah, exactly. I know how hands should be used. Look at them, Barry. Look at them. Admittedly, I didn't really punch much that day, but I don't think it was a penalty. I thought it was really harsh. So maybe I'm too nice. I'm just known for being such a nice guy, generous.
Yeah. John, 700th game for David Moyes, a 1-0 win. I mean, could it be any better for him?
Well, he did say, didn't he, that he thought his heart might give out in the second half. Brighton put the pressure on. David Moyes. It appears Everton aren't going to go down, and that there is another way than just settling for the Sean Dyche experience of just hanging on grimly. And that, listen, David Moyes is not going to play Andoni Iraola football, but he's going to at least try and win games and not just settle for a draw and not just stop games happening at all, which appeared to be the Dyche plan by the end of it. And, the guy that, popularised the phrase, the People's Club for Everton, looks like the guy that's going to lead them into the new stadium, which I think is nice. It's nice, and I think Everton have suffered enough. And I think it's nice that we've got Moisey back, and it's going to be a safe route to Bramley Moor Dock. Yeah, and Dye, we talk about the Sean Dyche thing. There's a really good player. Really, really good player. Use him a bit more and you might get something out of him. It's the thing is with that Everton squad, sure, it's got holes in it, but it's always had talent in it. And there is something to be released from that. As regards Brighton, very hit and miss this season, aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah. Sometimes you just think, wow, this kid as he is to some of us here, has really nailed it.
All of us.
Yeah, all of us, yeah. Okay. You just think this kid's really nailed it, and then other times not. But again, that's to do with the fact that he will learn, and also there's a lot of players coming in and out, and he's got quite a big squad to balance and a lot to move around. yet it doesn't quite work. Like the strikers aren't quite there, and they don't score enough goals. That would, Brighton are just. I think that's probably going to be their role in life over the next few years, of just good season, bad season, never really in trouble. They're too well run, aren't they?
Oh yes, the well-run klaxon. And also, yeah, it seems like, I think Jamie Vardy did a seagull celebration as well when he scored against them. So they got to put up with that. It seems like every time. But yeah, booking for that seems a little bit much, isn't it? Is that exciting the crowd? I don't know. They must take. I mean, they're probably very proud of their seagulls, and maybe it was just a bit much from Ndai.
Well, I was told yesterday by Charlie Baker that there's no such thing as a seagull, it's just a gull. But, if he'd swooped into the crowd and stolen someone's chips, then, maybe give him a yellow card for that. Because that's typical gull behaviour down Brighton way. But otherwise, I thought it was quite harsh.
It's at Bournemouth, just as an aside, I thought, there must be some gulls around here. You're using the correct term. I didn't see any. What's happened? What happened to gulls in Bournemouth, eh? There you go.
Maybe Bournemouth's just where elderly gulls go to retire.
They're
next door to Souness and Harry Redknapp in Sandbanks.
Yeah, right. They were holding their wings on a bench down by the beach. So, Southampton 1, Newcastle United 3. I mean, Newcastle were absolutely battered last weekend. Can't read too much into this. I mean, Will, what do you think it's like being a Southampton player at the moment? I mean, because it's just like you go out there every week, you get beat, you're going to be in the Championship next season. It must be absolutely miserable. That's despite taking the lead, by the way, as well.
Yeah, they took the lead at United as well. They took the lead at United and no one inside the ground really with 5-10 minutes to go was expecting anything other than United to come back and get something, even with United being so dreadful. Yeah, they make a lot of mistakes, which doesn't help. I mean, you big sign in the summer, Ramsdale's out injured, so you end up with Alex McCarthy. No offence to the poor lad, but probably not a Premier League goalkeeper now. Yeah, if you're a Southampton player, you're probably waiting for the end and expecting your wages to be cut, or you get sold on to someone slightly better, or you end up in League One, because that's probably what these players should settle for. Yeah, they had a bad summer, I think, in terms of recruitment. Spent a lot of money on players that weren't up to it. Ben Brereton Diaz already wandered off back to Sheffield United. Cameron Archer's not been particularly great. Yeah, it's a pretty underwhelming squad, to be honest. And they've made so many mistakes. It must ruin morale. Change of manager has sort of made them a little bit more stable, but even then, it's just staring down the barrel continuously. Newcastle, and when you go against Newcastle at the moment, incredible midfield. Tonali's been excellent recently since he's dropped a bit deeper, and you're playing against arguably the best striker in the Premier League at the moment in Isak. So yeah, you must just live in fear and just wait to go home, have a nice cup of tea, and not worry about it until City turn up next week or something like that.
I was going to say about Southampton. I was joking with a colleague, actually one of your colleagues, Robyn. We may never have to get to know Ivica Juric's name. It's sort of, it's because it does seem like a. It's
going to be a very deep cut pub quiz, isn't it?
Yeah,
answer,
It's like managed Southampton. What? Oh right, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, there's a couple of managers like that, aren't they? You sort of come in, you think. Ruud van Nistelrooy was one. Managed Leicester for 15 games in the 20-25, but now turn that around. But yeah, taking on that job, wow. They were down way before they sacked Russell Martin. So it's sad because there is a club there and there are ambitions there, but they have made some bad choices of recruitment across all departments. It is a worry for me that their former head of football is now at Manchester United, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, Dan Ashworth didn't last long, so we'll have to see if he goes the same way. Villa 1, West Ham United 1. 6 games without a win post-Champions League for Villa. I suppose that was fairly predictable, given, they've not been in the Champions League for quite a while. Barry, it seems like they're generally signs of life a little bit for West Ham. I mean, they're not going to go down. They weren't really going to. I don't think they're going to go down under Lopetegui, but it seems like slowly seeing a little bit more from them.
I didn't think they were going to go down under Lopetegui only because there was almost certainly going to be 3 teams way worse than them. Whereas now, as you say, they're showing signs of life that there's potentially a good team there. And I'm not surprised because Graham Potter is a good manager, despite what happened to him at Chelsea. I thought they were maybe a little bit lucky in this game because I've already mentioned Alvarez should have been sent off. He provided the assist for the goal with a nice cross for Emerson. Decent result for them. Unai Emery was not in his technical area because he was banished to the stands for previous offences. Villa fans, I'd say, were quite concerned to see Tyrone Mings go down with what looked like a worrying injury, but he was all smiles by the end of the game on the bench and posted on social media that it's not a serious injury, so good for him. There was a lot of very childish play acting in this game as well. Lucas Paqueta at the heart of quite a lot of it. He's had quite an up and down season, and I worry. Well, I presume the consequences of this investigation into his pals' betting activities is hanging over him because that could have very, very serious repercussions for him. He protests his absolute innocence and says he'll do everything he can to prove his innocence. So hopefully he can, because if he can't, that could be the end of him. Seemed a fair result. It was very much a game of two halves. Aston Villa bossed the first half, West Ham bossed the second. And maybe if Unai Emery had been on the touchline, he might have been in a position to do something about that.
Crystal Palace 1, Brentford 2. A couple of things to really enjoy in this one. In particular, Yoane Wissa's marvellous flex, especially after Brian Mbeumo had missed the first penalty. He was ordered to be retaken. And he celebrated even before I think he started the run-up. Absolutely magnificent stuff from Yoane Wissa. And then also SA, Barney, as a Millwall fan, was saying is going to be excellent. Scored, I think, with his first touch. Did a knee slide. No one was joining him because it was still 2-1. It was 5 minutes to go on the clock. A good away win this, John, for Brentford. I know you've seen them quite a lot because they've not been great away from home, have they?
No, do you know what? I don't think I've actually seen Brentford away from home. I always see them at Brentford, so I see the good Brentford most of the time. And yeah, it feels strange to see them have to grind out results in the way that they did there. I mean, Thomas Frank continues to do such a great job there. And again, I don't want to, take anyone away from the club where they've done such a great job, but why he isn't considered for... Actually, I think I actually credit Thomas Frank with enough sense not to take the Tottenham job. But he would be a great manager for them, I believe, because he's so adaptable, sensible, rational. Hey, listen, that could all go out the window when you're at Tottenham. But I just think, Brentford again. We're back to the well-run cliche, aren't we? And it serves them so well. But Mbeumo, Wissa, Damsgaard's, passing is fantastic, isn't it? What a find he is. I mean, I think there's a player. I think he's got rheumatoid arthritis, hasn't he? And he's playing through, which is a very painful condition. I know from family issues with it. And yeah, he is an excellent, excellent player. And they continue to unearth jewels. And good stuff. But yeah, the celebration when no one else is celebrating is one. If you ever watched the big match from the 80s or whatever, you see it a bit more often, or the 70s, when players were probably a bit more self-regarding. They'll celebrate a goal when they're 3-1 down or something, but now it is very much frowned upon, isn't it?
I think it's okay for him. It's his first Premier League goal on his debut, but he'll probably be accused by people of not being a team player, won't he?
People.
Yeah. We've established we don't really like people.
I'm sick of them. And I include myself among this large group of people.
Leo says a word for Tony Mowbray getting his first win back after beating cancer, and it was a 5-1 demolition back at the Hawthorns. Yes, wonderful to see him and a great result.
There was a brilliant interview with Tony Mowbray in The Athletic a couple of weeks ago, which I think was conducted by Michael Walker, formerly This Parish, who, I couldn't be happier for him. He just seems like an absolute top man.
He's a great guy. And I was at a West Brom Birmingham game last year, not long before probably he got the news, and there was a racist incident in the crowd. And Tony Mowbray who's an old school guy, spoke with the most sense I've ever seen about that type of incident. Just totally on the level, a really inspiring man. You speak to fans of Middlesbrough, you were an absolute hero, and it is great to see him back in the game, and all the best, Tony Mowbray.
Absolutely. And Luke says, can we have a Ryan Loft minute from Max? You can't, I'm afraid, because Max isn't here. But a brilliant 3-2 win over Mansfield for Cambridge United. An EFL pod is coming tomorrow for you. And that is about it for today. Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you, Robyn. And your little assistant there, who you've been jigging on your lap for parts 2 and 3.
Thank you. Apologies if,
it's all right.
Little Solly has interrupted the podcast. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you. I always thought Barry would be the first guest to vomit live in a live recording. Fair play to Solly.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. If he's had the other end, hasn't he? But not live on the podcast. Maybe at a live show. Anyway, that's a meeting for another time. John, many thanks to you.
Well, I can't follow that, can I? So thanks very much, Robyn.
Thank you all things EFL tomorrow. You can send us questions over on Instagram. Just search Football Weekly, or via email footballweekly@theguardian.com. Football Weekly is produced by Joel Grove, and our executive producer is Danielle Stevens.
This is The Guardian.